everyone, and welcome to this second episode of our Ideas Exchange Big Question. Today we have with us an eminent panel comprising of Dr. Rajesh Sharma, Mr. Devajit Datta, Mr. Vagish Jha, and another Mr. Ravi Kumar will be joining us soon. Dr. Sharma, Dr. Datta are eminent school leaders. I would request them to introduce themselves and speak about their institution, their school, their experience. And as we go along, I would request Vagish ji to give a short introduction about today's session. And then I would request the eminent panelists to introduce themselves. Over to you, Vagish.
Yes, so one small request to all the panelists that as you give your introduction, please come up with a short problem statement that you find is the most crucial for you. We will go on to that in detail later on, but as you introduce yourself, please tell us one short problem statement. So we'll start with Rajesh Sharma, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor and pleasure for me to be here on the SchoolNet panel and webinar. I'm basically a teacher by choice. I'm a psychologist trained by training. I'm on CBSE helpline for last around 14 years. I've been, I started as a PGT psychology and then of course became principal in 2004 at Army Public School, Bhopal. And then since then I've been principal. It's been a fantastic journey for me. And I always have been, my mission is for this country, we need some good leaders in all the fields. And that is the mission I'm keeping. I always enjoy working with the children because they are the leader of the future. And that's where we can produce future leaders in the school. So with that mission, I always start and work for it. Right now, I'm heading Vinayam Public School. It's just in Bhopal, outskirts, huge splash area of 10 plus acres. Of course, the school has been waiting for the children to come physical classes. But nevertheless, we are very, very positive. Maybe very shortly, the schools will open from digital. It will become a physical class and we all are going to have fantastic time. And as far as the problem is concerned, for me and for my own thinking, how can the accessibility of education be extended to 100% children? That's what is my thinking and problem which I am seeing.
Fantastic.
So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rajesh, sir. It looks like that Mr. Ravi Kumar has also joined.
Yeah.
But before he comes in properly, the digital space allows him to be seen by all of us. I request Mr. Devajit Datta to introduce himself and share his problem statement.
Okay, thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I like to thank SchoolNet to give the opportunity to share my views regarding today's webinar, that is post-COVID school education, reinvent, reorganize. So I myself, Devajit Datta, I'm a principal as well as owner of a school called Eklavya Public School. It is situated at Jolang, Itanagar, Arunachal Pradesh. So it is a co-ed school with day-come residential students used to come and get knowledge. So for me, I have started this school in 2017. It's a small pace. It's a small pace space where we allow students to develop their inner values and potential so that we can build every child their full potential. So this is my vision of the school. And the problem I face, because I belong to a very remote place, still like internet connectivity is very poor here. So during and after COVID, the main problem I face is lack of education. Lack of focus of education among the students during and after COVID. So this is the main problem I am facing.
Okay.
Thank
you, Devajit, sir. And welcome, Mr. Ravi Kumar, sir. As we request you to introduce yourself and share one problem statement with us. Ravi Kumar, sir. You are muted. So please unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, fine.
I am Ravi Kumar. I've put in almost around 32 years of experience in the education field. I started my career in Chennai. Then I took up a big assignment in Lawrence School, Lovedale. Throughout my career, most part of my career was mainly in a boarding school. I worked in, I served Lawrence School, Lovedale in various capacity, as up to senior housemaster. Then I thought of taking up challenges. Then I joined even KD Ambani in Jamnagar, run by this Reliance Industries, the township school. I was there as a vice principal for three years. Then there was an opening down south in Chikmagalur, which is a ICSE school, Amber Valley Residential School. I was heading it for 5 years. So till 2015, I was mainly in a boarding school. Only after 2015, I took up a thing. I thought I should also try out in a day school. Then I wanted to try something new. Then I moved on to Hyderabad, where I joined as a principal of Neeraj International School, which offered both PYP as well as CBSE curriculum. Now at presently I'm heading SBO Global School, which is around 710 students. We have got only up to class 10. The SBO, it's basically a State Bank of India Officers Association thing. They run almost 12 schools in South India. In Chennai, they've got 5 branches, and every city metro they've got 2. Coimbatore, Madurai, Trichy, one in Ernakulam also in Kerala. All comes under the same Chennai wing of SBI, that is State Bank of India Officers Association. So my area of specialization is French. I did my MA MPhil in French from Pondicherry University. Though I'm native of Chennai, I was brought up in Pondicherry. I did my schooling and university education in Pondicherry. That's how the influence of French. I do teach now. Even now I teach French whenever I get a chance with my kids. I enjoy being with the children.
What is your problem statement?
Yeah. The problem which we face at present is, of course, I would say that big cities, we don't face a connectivity issue, but at times, connectivity issues may be on both ends. It could be either from the teacher side or on the student side. But especially in a big city like Chennai, we don't face much of a connectivity issue. But teachers adapting to the new technology, and coming up to the expectation of the management and coming up to the expectation of the parents, that's a big challenge. Of course, as the saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention. Teachers are forced to learn all this thing, adapt immediately to the new demands of the society. I think they've done a wonderful job. But it has also thrown a lot of challenges. At some point of time, we were only confined to 4 walls of the school. The children come to school, the teacher interacts with around 30 to 40 children. Whatever happens, it happens only within the 4 walls. Now, the teaching is open to the entire world. When you're online, you're observed that there are 1,000 eyes on you. It's not only the students, it could be the parents, it could be grandparents, it can be connected to anyone. That's possible in online thing. Of course, to some extent, to limit the number, maybe every school would have joined some of the platforms, some of the interfaces like maybe like Google Classroom or Zoom Meet, so that there is some kind of a restriction over the number of students who attend. Only the permitted students are allowed to attend the class. Those things are there, but these are a couple of challenges. I would say, as you all know, that online classes cannot be equated to a face-to-face interaction with the class.
We'll come to the challenges in detail in the
Yeah.
next section, sir.
Okay.
So thank you, all three expert panelists
Yeah.
who are there with us. Viewers, you can see that
Yeah.
we have three committed educationists with lot of experience coming and joining us from Itanagar, that is the easternmost part. Then from Chennai, that is the south, deep
Yeah.
south. And then we have from the heart of India, that is Bhopal, Mr. Rajesh Sharma. I now request Arindam to give us a brief overview of the SchoolNet, which is hosting this whole program, to give our viewers some idea about who we are.
Yeah, thank you, Vageshji. And once again, thank you, Dr. Sharma. Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Thank you, Mr. Datta, for joining us in this particular session. SchoolNet, as many of you would be knowing, we have been in this field of education since 1997. So we are 23 years plus. We say that we are a 23-year-old startup. So because the field of education is evolving continuously, and what we are facing now, we had never thought of before, that actually children would be sitting at home and learning and interacting with the teachers in school. So, but that's what the reality is. And we have been trying to adapt to change for the last 20 years. So very briefly about SchoolNet, I won't take much of time because you have all three of the eminent panelists have raised some important issues that we need to discuss today. But very briefly, when we started our journey way back in 1997, our focus was to solve the problem that Mr. Dr. Sharma mentioned at the beginning. How do we make quality education accessible for all? And when we started working on that, the first thing that we did is that how do we improve the engagement within a classroom? And to improve that engagement within a classroom, we felt that probably we need to have standardized but multimedia, multisensory content mapped to the curriculum that can be used within a classroom to grab the attention of the students. That's when we invested heavily in creating content of different types and style mapped to the national curriculum framework. And having created this content, we felt that how do we disseminate that content across geographies, across the country, because there were remote corners of the country which did not have access, general physical access, let alone the digital access. So that's when we came up with this one-in-all device called the K-Yarn in partnership with IIT Bombay, which is the computer and projector and interactivity all combined together. So K-Yarn loaded with this content mapped to the curriculum is what we started sharing with schools. And then eventually the topic came that if having shared this in classroom group teaching learning device, how do we equip the teachers with that new pedagogy? So along with that, we started coming up with those teacher training ideas and processes, protocols through which teachers could be equipped and trained to use the technology within the classroom to improve the teaching learning efficiency as well as grab the attention of students. Eventually, we built a lot of features in K-Yarn, and today's K-Yarn, as you see, has got interactivity built into it. It can connect to multiple devices. One can do video conferencing. All those things are there. But the moot idea was, and we were looking at classroom as a unit. How do I make a teacher more efficient within a classroom? How do I help her become more effective while discharging her classroom transaction? So that was the problem we were trying to solve. Because we genuinely believe as an organization that a teacher has an extremely important role to play in the journey of a child. Now, what role the teacher plays, whether the teacher plays the role of, at the, in that Bloom's taxonomy, at what level she plays that particular role is something we need to figure out. But genuinely, we feel that teacher has a role to play. And secondly, what our second belief is that technology can help the teacher become more of a facilitator and also pass on the agency of learning to the child. So the problem that we were trying to solve is that how do we pass on the agency of learning to the child, yet retaining the importance of the teacher in the equation, make her a facilitator so that the effectiveness and efficiency of teaching and learning improves within a classroom. So that was the problem we were trying to solve for the last 17, 18 years. Then we felt that if classroom is the unit, and if we are using technology to make a classroom more engaging, richer, make the teacher more facilitator, promote some level of flipped classroom methodologies within it, how do I make the other sides of learning equally synchronous with classroom transaction? That was the second problem we were trying to solve. So just trying to explain, because when a child goes to a school, that's fine. There is a teacher, there are 40 students in a classroom, the teacher is teaching, all of that is fine. But when a child goes out of the classroom, she has multiple modes through which she can learn. Sometimes she goes to a tuition, so she learns another syllabus there, maybe another way of learning that starts happening there. Or she takes certain online classes, then another mode of learning happens there. How do we make all those synchronized together so that there is significant learning consolidation that happens at the level of a child? So that was the second problem we tried to solve for the last 2-3 years. And that's when we came up with this concept called Genio, which is again an online teaching learning portal, which teachers can use within a classroom. And the way we have tried to structure this particular software is we use the digitized version of the textbook that is used within the classroom. And around every page of that digitized textbook, we have got content of different types and shape and form, from created by us, created by other eminent people. And we have assessment at every level, continuous assessment inbuilt within it, so that the teacher can actually know which child is at what level. And then she know, like a doctor, like a diagnostic report, she can say that, okay, I know the weak areas of a child and I know which child requires what level of attention. So this is a work in progress, and this is what we are trying to do. Net, sir, what as an organization for the last 20 years, our mission has been what you said, to make education, quality education, accessible for all, particularly those residing in the middle and the bottom of the pyramid. That is our motto, and that is where we are learning. And we believe that in order to do that, we need to intervene both levels, both within the school to make classroom transaction more efficient and effective, as well as outside the school, where a student is learning at home, self-learning and all of that. How do I make that more engaging, interesting, effective? So that at the end of the day, what matters is whether a child is learning. And learning will happen only when we synchronize, connect all the dots and help the child move up that particular competency level. So that's what we have been doing, and through our efforts and with all of your blessings, gentlemen, we are present in 40,000 schools today, and we intend to expand our footprint to impact more and more number of people who are in the middle and the bottom of the pyramid to actually start benefiting from. And that's where we drive our passion. That's where we drive our satisfaction from. So that's briefly about us. And I would request Bhagesh ji to add a few words if you would like to. You're on mute, Bhagesh ji. Bhagesh ji, you're on mute.
Okay. So thank you, Arindam. You were really succinct and put the points across. What we wanted also to just one line to add is that for us, the schools and teachers are our partners. And the change can happen only when we trust each other and we take care of each other nicely. So now it is the time that I should present before you a small overview of why are we meeting today here. And the context is, and all of us are aware, is that the corona continues to raise like a wildfire as we stand here and sitting talking to each other. The humanity is quarantined in utter quandary. In the throes of national emergency, the country is running out of breath, as it were. We need to understand the context very well. So it has resulted is that social relationships have crumbled. Economy is at standstill. Medical systems have gone for a toss, and education is stranded at a crossroad. We are all from education, so we are concerned about that. And this is, it reminds us of a famous blues song by Lead Belly that it was popularized in our part of the world by Bhupen Hajarika. We are in the same boat, brother. But this is a strange solidarity through separation. There is a solidarity through separation, to use Michael Sandel's phrase. So we are here today with the series of intimate dialogue with school leaders to seek collective answers to the questions faced by education today. What is ironic about it is that it needed a pandemic of a global order to expose dark underbelly of educational system, from access to equity that Mr. Sharma was talking about, from curricular load to the centrality of students' engagement all over became the center of discussion, and for everybody to discuss about that. The need for sustained teacher professional development, the absurdity of educational assessment systems, existing assessment systems, and the inevitability of tech-enabled learning, all are out in the public domain, so to say. It's not just experts who are discussing it. Everybody is discussing it. All these demands deep introspection, reorganizing and reimagining. These are some of the fundamental questions staring at us, the big questions of our times. So today, we are here with some eminent and grounded school leaders to listen to their views as we try to make sense of education in such a troubled time. Welcome to Big Questions. And now I request, yes, sir. So now I request my panel of experts to outline the challenges that they see that education is facing at this particular time. And I would now this time want to begin with Mr. Ravi Kumar.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, at present, okay. First is, as I discussed yesterday, I also hinted out that one is the connectivity issue. Though we may be staying in a big metro, connectivity issues will be faced either at both the ends or either of the ends, either from the teacher side or from the student side. So effective transaction of thing may not happen. That is one of them.
Okay.
That's a main one of the main issues of online teaching. Then the next would be, I would say, I'm just trying to compare only the online teaching with face-to-face teaching in the classroom.
Okay.
When the number is more in an online class, let's say the teacher is using a system or a laptop to have the transaction there, the teacher will be able to view at one point of time a maximum of, let's say, around 24, 25 students. Even in some cases, if they are using a smartphone, even that is not possible. Maybe at a time they will be able to view and see the reaction of maybe maximum 2 or 3 students on the screen. So naturally, the teacher will not know whether the child is paying attention in class or is only physically present in class. So whereas in a, let's say, in the classroom interaction, by looking at the face of the child, the teacher will be able to assess whether the child is really paying attention to what the teacher is teaching, and he'll be able to maybe throw a question at the child who is not following and extract, make him alert to follow the class. That is possible. This is one of the. This is the difference which I see between online. Then there are, of course, a lot of advantage. I'm not negating that. I mean, online classes doesn't have that much of advantage. There are a lot of advantage. In fact, immediately we can share a lot of information with the children. Like, for example, let's say that the teacher has prepared, if the teacher has already prepared points or gist of points, it can be immediately shared by the click of a button. That is possible. And the child will be able to store it. Whereas an online thing, maybe a classroom, the teacher might require maybe use a lot of time to write from the board, or maybe even if she has come prepared using a PowerPoint presentation, the child has to browse through it, note down, then maybe note it down in his classwork notebook and go ahead. So these are the things which we face. In addition to that, as I told you, especially in the primary classes, beside it doesn't happen in senior classes, especially in the primary classes. Along with the kids, there are other members of the family who are also part of the online classes. So they are able to judge. Let's say that maybe a student, this happens in most of the school, maybe a science teacher or a math teacher may not be good at English, but he may have a thorough knowledge of the subject, or but he may not be able to put it across. Even this can be pointed out by the parent and say what kind of a teaching is happening. This is another negative thing, since everyone is observing what is happening in online classes. So they tend to make maybe remarks or comments, or maybe make a sweeping statement. This might even demotivate the teacher. Of course, there are a lot of, when you look at the flexibility and convenience of having online classes, there are lots. But this also leads to, some kind of lethargic attitude on both sides, I would say. The child, even the student, since he is at home, going to attend the class, may not be on time, or may not be dressed properly, may not be in a proper attire to attend the class. He would have just got up from the bed, just for namesake, he wanted to show his presence and to show that he's attending the class, he would have done that. The same way, maybe it's, in some cases, the teacher might also take it very,
Yes.
maybe even teacher might be very casual at home. So these are the issues. Then finally, of course, when it comes to the parent side, any organization, of course, they need money to run the show. The parents always equate your regular schooling with your online classes. They are always, what they will say is, okay, any of number of hours, instruction hours is limited. You're only having the academic subjects. There's not much of a, let's say, scholastic subjects or extracurricular activities which can be conducted or which can be conducted through online. So naturally, don't expect us to pay the same fee. So this is the general thing of the parents.
Yeah.
They say, why should I pay so much when my child is only attending the classes at home, and it's only restricted to only the main subjects? Of course, there are certain scholastic subjects which can be maybe taught through online, like art, craft, or to some extent music. But when it comes to sport, it cannot happen. Sport can be only a kind of exercise, yoga, or maybe exercises, or
Yes.
those things. So
Very
these are
nice.
the challenges. These are
Very
the
nice.
challenges.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for elaborating it in
Yeah.
such a detailed way. I now go to Devajit Datta, sir. Your point of view in terms of what are the challenges. It will be good if we keep it succinct, because we have 2, 3, 4 sections coming up. So,
Yes, sir.
Devajit Datta, sir.
Yeah. So for me, as the lockdown started, people migrating from one place to another. As the people migrated, parents migrated, students also migrated from one school to another. For this, the place where I'm right now, it's Arunachal Pradesh. So it's far away from the metropolitan cities, or you can say urban areas, right? So connectivity is very poor here. So online classes are, you can say, like 30% successful, or you can say 20% successful. And the second problem is like parents here, right? They are not up to that level of mark of education. So they completely depend on the school, and they want to keep all their child in a hostel. So that, like, if they stay in hostels, then only like they'll get a proper education from the junior level till the middle level and senior level and secondary level. As the parents here, they're having more than, like, what to say, child's ratio is more. Most of the parents, they're having more than 3 childs. So online classes, giving purchasing a gadget to more than 5 child or 4 child or 3 child, how it will possible? Because economically they are not so sound, right? So if suppose online class will continue, then 4 or 5 mobiles they have to purchase. So they completely deny the online classes. Only few parents, like 30 to 40% parents are like, no, they said, okay, we are willing to take the online classes. This is a scenario here in Arunachal Pradesh. The second thing is as because of COVID, we are confined in a single place, right? It may be home or it may be a single room, right? So students become very lazy. They lack competition among themselves. Again, they lack studies. Now, as the new generation coming up, they are more adapted towards the social media. It may be WhatsApp, it may be Facebook, it may be Instagram. Then they are more towards the mobile games and all. They are the wake up and sleeping cycle become changed. So as Ravi Kumar sir said, like only the sake of giving the attendance, they used to join the classes. So the actual value of education become deteriorated because of the online classes. But after COVID, the post-COVID, when we say
we will come to the post-COVID
Okay,
in the next section, sir. Thank you. Thank you so
thank you,
much, Devajit sir. Rajesh sir, what do you think are the main challenges? I mean, those which have already been said, maybe skip, but you can say just ditto.
Sorry. I would like, because when we are talking of accessibility, please understand there is a digital divide, as we all discussed in the start, that it has come to the fore. We now know that there is a digital divide existing in all societies, irrespective of any socio-economic strata. Because whether the location or due to the geographical situation, due to the different aspects of it. So what is happening, even the family members, the economic capacity of the family to spend. So the digital device is really affecting 100% accessibility. So here the stakeholders, right from the school owner to the administration, the parent and the student, all are affected. And here I want to bring in one fact. I'm sure we all have been reading the paper. 1.6 billion students are out of the school. It's almost, you'll be surprised. It's 25 to 30% of whole population of this planet, which is not going to the school. And that is where they are especially losing onto the emotional side, the social well-being, the creativity. And I want to mention here one Harvard University study which was done in way back October 2020. They were telling that the educational loss or the talent loss which has happened from March 2020 to August 2020, it will be recovered in 60 years. So the loss is already multiplying. And that's where the accessibility of education is absolutely necessary. Thank you.
Excellent. Fantastic. Arindam, would you like to do a kind of a sum up of what they have said?
Thank you so much. I think this is wonderful. All the situation is not wonderful, but the challenges, the way it has come up is useful for us to actually understand the gravity of the situation. So while Mr. Ravi Kumar talked of the connectivity issues and which Dr. Sharma actually put it under the blanket concept of the digital divide. The digital divide, which is actually dividing people above the middle India and people below the middle of the pyramid. So that's dividing the digital divide. And that digital divide is leading to lack of effectiveness of classroom transaction within the class. Online classes, lack of connectivity issues is what we also understood from Mr. Ravi Kumar. The second point is that teachers' ability to actually track a student and understand whether a student is understanding the concepts, paying attention, is also limited in the current situation. In many of this, I have actually seen in my daughter's class, she reads in class 4, and while they have been continuing with online classes since last August, I think, July, August, they have started the online classes. But I find that many of the time, the students would say, when a teacher would ask a question, the student would respond, "Ma'am, connectivity issue." So if the teacher asks that, please open that particular book. So, "Ma'am, connectivity issue." I am at my grandfather's place, so I don't know I have left my book there and all those excuses they come up with. So that's a challenge for the teacher, I can understand. Yeah. The second important point which Mr. Ravi Kumar mentioned is about parental interference. So suddenly, this child who was within the four walls of the classroom, and the teacher was actually looking at 40 children. Now the teacher actually gets observed not by those 40 children, but by several others also, which the teacher may or may not be aware. So that interference is counterproductive to teaching and learning. I absolutely agree. Parental intervention may be necessary, but interference is absolutely counterproductive. I understand. The point which Mr. Datta mentioned is also pertaining to digital divide and the fact of affordability. If it's a large household, then getting gadgets for different children is actually a stress on the purse of the parents. That's definitely an issue. Secondly, also a room or a corner in the house where the child can actually, if there are more than one children in the house, then, and if everybody is actually having online classes, then where do they go and study? So people may not have. So those are practical challenges. And what Dr. Sharma mentioned at the end of the day, that how do we, our problem is that how do we actually solve this particular challenge? We are in the pandemic. We know that online classes have been a reality for the last 6 months, 8 months, and we do not know for how long it will continue. Maybe at some point in time, there could be a blend of online and offline. That's what might happen. Because even if vaccines are available, whatever the behavioral changes, I mean, schools may not be running at full capacity. So we do not know what's going to happen. And the fact that you mentioned that 1.6 billion kids in the whole world out of 7 billion people are out of school is a big number. And as school leaders, as educationists, I think we need to solve how do we bring them back to school, and if not a physical school, even if it is a virtual school, how do they bring them back to the fold of education so that they learn? And what you said is alarming, sir. I didn't read. I mean, it's really alarming that what the learning loss in the last 6 months, it will take 60 years to recover. So if that is the situation, how do we kind of work together to solve it is probably the question we need to harp on. Magishi.
Fantastic. And so the learning recovery is one of the greatest challenges that the education is facing, if I have understood Dr. Rajesh Sharma properly, and which others will also agree that how learning recovery will take place, the loss that has gone in. The other important point that Mr. Ravi Kumar pointed out is that he not only tried to point out the problems of the online, but he also said that the benefits of the online. So what he was basically hinting at was the blended mode. Listening to Devajit, it gave me an idea that probably the group learning is what is required, even if the school is not possible. I mean, for example, Arindam, if you remember, when Kian was launched, it was launched as a group learning device. So suppose that there is a mohalla kind of a thing where Kian is presented and some teachers, school can come there. Some students can of that particular area can come there, and then it's a movable device, so it can go to some other area, and those kind of things could be possible. Nevertheless, I just want to go to the next section by asking all of you in some sharp manner, if you can tell us what are the measures that you have taken, what are the interventions that you have done. Is there something interesting that you have done to solve some of these challenges? And I start with Mr. Rajesh, Dr. Rajesh Sharma, please.
You just mentioned exactly the same solution I have adopted in my school, the community teaching, and we have used Kian, to be honest. Because my school is in middle of around 200 villages. Mm-hmm. It's on the main highway, but it is surrounded by small villages, hut mines. And these kids, they do have some digital problem and the connectivity problem. So what we did, we have conducted the remedial classes, frankly, because the social distance has to be there. So keeping that in mind, we conducted remedial classes in one particular village. We will convey the message to the student that today we are going to be in this village, and we will arrange at a some community hall or in a huge house of some student, and that's where the remedial classes will be conducted. And that is how everybody, all of us, can try one or the other way that the children, the learning happens. Please understand, we cannot wait for an ideal situation. It's not possible. It's not going to be there. So let us not waste or not harp onto it. So let us do what best can be done. And I feel leadership is what can you do at the place where you are. And I
Absolutely.
think
Fantastic.
that's where we have to do it.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Devajit, sir.
Sir, this time we are making booklet series by our own teachers. So that as a connectivity problem is there in my area, so booklet, if suppose booklet series is there, I can transfer it from one place to another place by road, by bus, or any other transportation. So my teachers, they're making a booklet for class 5, class 8, and class 10. As in my place, class 5 and class 8 state board is there, and class 10 CBSE board is there. So they're preparing now. In the coming month, that is in the month of May, it will be over. And if suppose COVID will continue like this, then I'm planning to transport and provide my all the students this booklet series. At least they can see and go through it, and they can learn something, right? Beside this, WhatsApp is working in some other places. So teachers make WhatsApp videos, voice record, summary of a particular topic through voice record, and they send. This is how we are able to connect education and sharing knowledge to the students.
Nobody would have thought, even the inventors of WhatsApp, that it is going to become such an important vehicle for education in such a situation.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, Ravi Kumar, sir. Tell us about
Yeah.
some of the interventions and some of the things that you have done.
Of course, one of the main thing is to have to sustain is to have a continuous in-service training program for our staff. What we do is whenever possible, we have a Zoom meeting, a kind of collaborative meeting with all our teachers. Our IT department train the rest of the staff for using various means to make the classroom interaction interesting, online teaching. They, in fact, our KG teachers have even tried out augmented reality. They tried their level best. I mean, we can't do like professionals, but at least to some extent, whatever is available in Google Classroom, I mean, they tried a little bit. So that, I mean, basically to make the class interesting. That's how continuous training will help. I
Very
think so.
interesting, very important.
Okay, continuous training will help. The next is for the higher classes, what we do is teachers have started giving projects, group projects, to create some kind of interest among the children. So it's kind of a self-learning program. Okay, what are the things which they have to refer, or maybe some sources they would share with the children. Maybe a week's time will be given for the child, and they come up with their own points, and that will be assessed by the teacher. It can be a small PPT presentation by, it can be maybe a primary grade 5 children or 8th standard students. And end of a week, it is evaluated, and kind of an e-certificate is given to motivate the children.
Yeah.
This is one way of self-learning and group learning program which is encouraged on the children.
So it's a pedagogical innovation is being done. Yes. Fantastic.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Arindam, as I request Arindam to present a quick summary and we go to the third section, I request my viewers to start writing some questions, because we should be able to ask some questions from our experts also. Arindam, can you quickly summarize the last section?
Yeah, so I think some innovative methodologies have been adopted by all these school leaders. What Devajit ji said, that booklet series by teachers for classes 5, 8, and 10, and usage of WhatsApp to record teaching lessons, teacher lectures, and disseminate that in a remote corner of the country like Arunachal Pradesh. I think that's a wonderful thing which we learned from Mr. Devajit. What Dr. Sharma was talking about, remedial classes being used in the villages by using Kian. I think that's a wonderful way. We are happy that the Kian found in appropriate usage, that remedial classes in the middle of the villages, and to recover the learning loss. And what Mr. Kumar said, the continuous in-service training, continuous training of the professional development of the teachers in usage of various IT tools for improving the online transaction, classroom transaction. I think these are the three things that we have understood from the leaders today.
Yes. So this is very interesting. I just want to add one more thing to what Mr. Ravi Kumar said, is that in most of the schools that I have been going and training is my forte, is that I used to ask one question. There was no pandemic, there was no COVID, that do you think that students should be given mobile phones? And I will tell you the kind of response that I got. No is a unison. These two teachers will say in unison, no. And now today they are scrambling, give mobiles to each one of them. Now, this is the idea that and then suddenly when the pandemic came, then teachers were doing exactly the same things that they were doing in the offline class, and online education is very different. The other thing also, Mr. Ravi Kumar, that I would like to take up if the time is that the whole notion of thinking of online teaching and online training to be given by some technical persons, that needs to be seen, that IT people will not understand that how I'm going to use online environment for teaching history and for teaching mathematics. There are two different kinds of scenarios that are there in the classroom. So there is a different kind of way at looking at the continuous development for us. So now I just want to cut short my own greed of talking to you on this. I just want to go back to Debajit to ask him that tell us how do you look at the future? Do you think that how the education is going to look in the post-pandemic era? And what is your plans? What is your vision?
Thank you for question, sir. So as I see future, right? Future in my place, like I already told you, because of this COVID, students become so lazy. They lack interest in studies. They lack commitment for the hardship. So today, like now, presently, like my school is going on. Today, I've taken first class in class 10. So I told him two things. One is pain. Second is pleasure. So if a person, right, a student, same person, two different day. A person, he wake up 5 in the morning, took his mobile, playing games till 1 or 2 hours. It is a pleasure for him for 1, 2 months, 3 months. Same students, next day, he wake up at 5 a.m., took his book, it may be maths or it may be other any subject books. He's studying, he's taking the pain, but after 2, 3, 4 months, 5 months, when the exam will come, he'll do good in exam. So that method I place to my student so that they will learn, okay, they will motivated to compete with each other and they have a good understanding of the knowledge. So what I feel like COVID and post-COVID, I already told you, we parents, we and as a government side, right, we put less focus on education, because of which like now after post-COVID, we are facing lots of problems. Even in the emotional part, post-COVID trauma part, then behavioral part, and the discipline part. So this is how like, and the future, I feel like this pandemic will give us an opportunity to think uses of both offline as well as online thing merged together as a whole and develop a new gadget like a mobile phone, or you can say tablet, where there shouldn't be any internet connectivity. Only the thing like what to say, the content will be there, syllabus will be there, given by the respective teachers. There shouldn't be any what to say internet connectivity. Then chargeable also, solar. If suppose solar device will be there, for the solar device they can charge. If suppose in a place where there is no electricity, those students also can afford those things. So this is my vision of the future
Fantastic.
schooling.
Very, very nice, interesting point of view.
Thank you, sir.
Rajesh, sir.
Yeah, for me, I think future is absolutely fantastic. It's going to be an amalgamation of technology and the physical and digital world. Of course, yeah.
I agree with Rajesh Sharma. Yeah.
Because this is where we are all social animals, let us be honest about it, and we need interaction. So the physical class will be needed, but surely for the accessibility and for this emergency, the technology will be used in a wide and spread way. The classes, as we are finding in case, because we have to live with now this COVID-19. It's not going to be there overnight. So this is where every school leader has to be ready to face it, and we have to involve parents, students, our management, and all the stakeholders. And I expect the government to support it. And of course, the infrastructural support from the government has to be there. It has to be a private public partnership so that education has to flourish. The show must go on. We cannot just wait for a right time. It's absolutely fine. We have to work on it and give education. It's a duty of all of us as leaders and the responsible citizen that every child goes to school, he learns the basic concepts. It is not just 3 hours reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now they have to be skilled, and the skill can happen when there is a physical interaction happening. They have to learn certain things, and I feel the future is going to be fine. But it is absolutely challenging and adventurous. Why I say adventurous? Because the children who are in class first today, they may not, rather we are preparing them for some job which is not there at all. They will be finding something very absolutely new ventures where they will be working, they will be asked to work. So
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ravi Kumar sir.
Yeah,
How do
I
you
think
envisage the future?
I vouch for what Dr. Rajesh Sharma has just stated. It's going to be really interesting and very challenging for both teachers and students. I mean, I would say the kids are now at some point of time, maybe before pre-COVID time, they'd be longing to go on vacation or they'll be waiting for a holiday. Now the kids are longing to come back to school. That's the scenario.
Absolutely.
The same thing, because they wanted to come to school, interact with their fellow students, their peers, and their friends, play around. The same thing with the teachers. So after post-COVID, what I foresee is maybe it will be a challenge for teachers. Now they have also tasted the advantages of using the technology in their classroom, maybe online interaction. They have to blend both. You have to take the advantages of using a technology in maybe during a classroom transaction, as well as assessing the children. Like, for example, I can just cite an example. You can never equate something like where the system able to do a in-depth analysis of a child when an assessment is given, like Google Form. Even Google Form, if everything is done, I mean, there are certain programs which we had experience of that. If the child, let's say, the child is not has not understood a particular concept, the system takes it, also tells why he has gone wrong, what is the misconception behind that, and it takes the child to the next level. This kind of adaptive learning program is already there in the field now. So those things, I think, humanly, it's not possible for teachers to do that. But the system, I mean, like, if you come up with this kind of assessment program, it will be of great help for the teachers to do an in-depth analysis. So that's what I feel. I mean, it will be really challenging for, I mean, if you blend both classroom teaching as well as online thing, I think the students will gain a lot. And moreover, it's going to be a competition among teachers also. So they can't just be only doing a chalk and board teaching, chalk and board this thing. They have to have some kind of support, effective online thing.
So what you said, continuous teacher professional development is the
that has to be there.
all of the time. Okay, so Arindam, can you quickly summarize before?
I think what I heard, I mean, is that all the school leaders and the eminent panelists are unequivocally talking about the blending of physical and the digital, of offline and online. there are certain hard realities which Mr. Devajit Datta faces in a place like Arunachal Pradesh, and there could be similar situations in other parts of the country of connectivity issues, etc. So we need to figure out ways of how do we kind of have use technology in offline environment also. But what we understand, what we hear is that the future, and it's heartening to hear that that everybody's saying that the future looks bright. Blending of technology, blend of the physical and the digital, and the interesting thing is that there has been a shift, behavioral shift, or rather an acceptance of technology by the education community also. That technology can be used for benefiting the learners, effectively benefiting the learners is a great thing that we have seen happening. What Mr. Kumar also mentioned, that if technology can help in assessing, providing in-depth assessment of every child in the classroom, so that the teacher gets to know at the click of a button as to who stands where and accordingly what medicine to be given to which child. I think if technology can solve that, that would be of great help for improving the efficiency of teaching and learning within the classroom.
Excellent. So this is once again I am reminded of the idea behind Kyan was that the entire educational things should be bundled in such a way that you have the access to all of them offline, as well as it has the online capabilities. So similar kind of a thing that Devajit Datta Sahab is pointing out is that we need to have, where the connectivities are not good, that there should be content available offline, how it can be done. Is this a pen drive that you put the content in, or is there something else? Because pen drive is available, but then the problem is that there has to be another device that will have to be added to the pen drive. Okay.
Also another thing, Vageeshji, I just want to bring this up, and this point came up during discussion Mr. Ravi Kumar was mentioning. How do you grab the attention of children who are reduced to actually black tiles on a computer screen when you're doing an online class? So, so there could be some level of pedagogical innovation also, when you are teaching online, and maybe some kind of, I would say, some support to the teacher as to the kind of questions she should ask, or how she should, generate interaction across the screen. Some kind of, we need to think of a framework and a pedagogical, I would say, scaffolding also there, Magesh.
Yes. So the last 5 minutes are there with us. We started 5 minutes late, so we'll seek your indulgence for next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There are some questions that are here, and no, generally we want to start on time and finish on time, but today, due to some reason, we were 5 minutes late. So I will start. Probably there are several questions that have come up. We will share most of these questions with you so that you can tell them about. So you can respond to those questions, because our idea is that we are going to create a community of practice here. So all those people you are here, you are not here only for this 1 hour. We can keep continuing discussing some of the ideas. Should I read a few of the questions? Arindam, would you like to take a look? Let me file the first one. In all this, one of the stakeholders, our future, the students are missing out the so much more, including studies, their peer-to-peer time, the personality development through extracurricular activities, and much more. Any suggestion how we can, how this can be addressed? Is a problem that you have pointed out. One more question pointed to Ravi Kumar sir. Ravi Kumar sir mentioned the increasing role of parents in their wards learning journeys. How do the leaders see the two fraternities, the school and parents, communicating and collaborating with each other for effective teaching learning to happen? So two questions. Any one of you. One is directed to Ravi Kumar ji. The other one, any one of you can pick up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, shall I?
Yes.
The question addressed to me. Yeah. I think parents can play a very vital role in facilitating this online thing. I think if they give a right input to the teacher, or let's say the maybe the principal of the school, or we will be able to resolve certain things. Instead of directly, I mean, picking up the argument or finding fault with the teacher. I think if it's addressed to the next level, or if it's put across in a form of a feedback, we'll be able to look into that. I think by that we'll be able to solve.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rajesh, sir, you were saying something.
If I can add it, as a matter of my thinking is all the time when I take parent orientation. Why the child has come to the school to get good marks and study good? Why we are there to teach the children that they score nicely and learn good things. So there cannot be, when our goal is same of the parent and the school, there cannot be, diversion. We cannot be entangled. Only thing problem can happen, the perception of the parent is as per one child. Perception of principal is as per 2,000 children. So that is where we have to bring the parent along with us and deal with it. And it always helps. That's what I want to say.
Great. I think Mr. Ravi Kumar and Sharma sir have responded to a question, another question, which I just want to read. I think you have given the answer. When things were better, parents were anxious to send their child to school. Now with the school closing down again, there is a relief that they don't have to take the decision. But going forward, how do you plan to reinstate the faith of parents in the school management? It's a very interesting question. I'll read one more interesting and wider implication.
If I can answer, Bhagiji.
Yes.
It is just very simple. One sentence answer is build trust. 2 words.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. There is one interesting idea that do you think that teachers should record their live classrooms or they should not? It might help students to be more attentive during the live class.
Recording will not help here.
Yeah.
For the attention or engagement of the children, recording doesn't have a role to play. Only thing it can be, as a matter of, I would say, if the child is doing a class recorded, their engagement and interest can reduce. That's all.
I think.
Please.
Maybe recording can be used only for self introspection. Maybe the teacher can maybe play it again and see where he has gone wrong, what better way he can do that. I think in no way it's going to help the child, as Dr. Sharma has mentioned.
Otherwise, what we have seen is that people tend to record and thinking, "Acha, abhi to let it be recorded. We will see it later."
Yeah, later. As you said,
and the later never comes.
Yeah, later never comes.
So
let me also point out, maybe this is not, it's out of topic. There are, of course, a lot of parents who also gain through online work. For example, let's say the North Indian parents have come to South. Let's say language teacher, Tamil teacher, or someone is teaching them. The parents have also learned a new language by sitting through the class. That's a great, I got a compliment from my parents. I said, it's fantastic, sir. We attended our kids' classroom online language classes and we have picked up a new language. So you've got both plus and minus.
Okay, so there is another question, sir. I am from Maharashtra. The government has declared students from 9th to be automatically promoted to the next class. They have also decided to skip the SSC exams. My question is, will this affect the child in future? And if so, what can be done now so that the problem can be mitigated?
Should I?
Anyone?
Yes.
I saw Devojit sir raising hands.
Yeah, sir.
Okay, sir. Rajesh sir, you can say after it. I will say.
Okay.
Sir, my thinking is, it is a situation, but please remember the competition has not gone. The entrance will happen for the students. Whenever they go to professional colleges, they have to face the competition and they have to prepare for it. It is just they have not appeared for the examination and they have been given a promotion because it's an absolutely unique situation. Okay, that's all I want to say.
Devojit sir, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, sir. For me, I will say just 2-3 words. Self-assessment, sir. If they are promoted, it's okay. They are passed, right? But for them, it's good to go for self-assessment. Each chapter, sample paper, without seeing the answer, write the answer, and after that check the answer. Self-assessment will be the best thing to know till which level he or she have reached.
All right, I am reading one question, and do you see a need of redesigning the curriculum as we see blended learning as a future?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Yes.
surely. It needs
Surely, yeah.
redesigning.
I just want to make a closing remarks about something that has not been discussed in detail, and it was pointed out by Rajesh sir and also Ravi Kumar sir, is the idea of assessment, and how online assessment is not just, there are large dimensions to online assessment that has not really been exploited and even understood properly. So the adaptive learning and so that the students, as Arindam was talking about, Genio. So it provides the students the opportunity to see for themselves that where they are going. That is leading them towards becoming self-directed learners in a way. So they can choose their own path of direction, that how much I understood in this topic and what is the way in which I should go. That is one major takeaway from online learning is happening. The other one is also is that question papers can be designed in such a way that they cannot copy and paste. And I have worked in with Eklavya, and Rajesh ji would know about it. It was an old, great organization. There was an open book system. You have to think about. You have to think about open book system, designing intelligent questions, and online gives you the possibility. We have an online LinkU platform that teachers create a kind of a question bank and different kinds of questions, and then you decide that okay, so I want to have 5% as MCQ questions, 2% as short answer question, 3% as long answer question, and the computer does the sorting out by on its own, and each student gets a different kind of a question, and there is a time that is done. So the technology is posing and presenting variety of possibilities. The problem is that we are not able to, first of all, tap on these, and we are not even aware of many of those possibilities. So I with those words, I request Arindam, unless he has something to say, to make his closing remarks and propose vote of thanks.
No, I would not want to make a closing remark, because I would want this to be a beginning of our journey. And the most important thing is, I go back to what Dr. Rajesh Sharma said at the beginning, that our job here is to see that education becomes accessible for all. And what I heard from Mr. Ravi Kumar and Mr. Datta is that we need to bridge the digital divide. We need to blend physical with the digital. We need to have newer and innovative pedagogies and training of teachers in improving the engagement in the classroom. Whether the classroom is physical or virtual doesn't matter. But as Dr. Sharma said, that leadership is to begin from where you are in a situation. So we are in a situation, all of us are in a situation, and our job is to see that learning loss is reduced to the minimum. And if that is the objective, we need technology, we need blending of technology, we need training of teachers, we need assessments, and we need parental intervention, not interference, so that together as a partnership, we make learning happen. So that's what I gather from this discussion today in a nutshell. And it's not closing remarks, it's the opening remarks, I would say. We should have more of such sessions so that actually we can build a real community of practice, and we build on it together. As an organization, we have believed genuinely in blended learning. Even before the pandemic had hit us, we had started with Genio, which was a blend of virtual teaching with self-learning. Kian, when we created, our thought was also like that how do we bring in technology inside the classroom and improve the engagement? How do we standardize to a large extent the teaching learning delivery across the remotest corners of the country? So we genuinely believe in this. That's why we have been sticking our ground for the last 23 years, and we want to continue till our mission is fulfilled. And we need your help, your support in making this happen. So I would like to thank all of you, Dr. Rajesh Sharma, Mr. Ravi Kumar, Mr. Devajit Datta, for attending this session.
You're welcome.
And I would request you to please continue to provide us guidance so that together we can succeed in our mission.
I want to thank all the participants who were there. I want to apologize to some of the questions that were filed and we did not have the time to read them out. We would like to create a kind of a community of practice here where all these teachers should be present and how these questions should be put up. These are not the answers that can be given in 10 seconds as in TV people say that. It is a question of re-engaging, reinventing, and reorganizing ourselves. It's a difficult time, but you have taken out your time, all the viewers in particular, and our experts definitely. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, technical team.
Thank you.